Salutations my fellow dudes and dudettes, and welcome back to Tales of Destiny. Last time, we sort of got under arrest and prosecuted a whole bunch of crap that supposedly Rudy's done. But that's all over. We're now working for the king. And our first mission is to go to the Streamless Temple, not too far from here. And investigate, because we're supposed to be checking out something called the Eye of Antimony. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. I'm sorry, I sort of took a bit before getting back because weather was pretty miserable and my back was acting up. Not a good time, but anyways, we also got Leon as an actual party member. The guy that kicked our ass earlier is now on our side, so I guess that's kind of cool. And we're not going to be going over how he controls until halfway through this part, because for this portion, for at least the first half of this, we're just going to be exploring Darrowshire and seeing what we can obtain in terms of item collection. So that ought to be interesting. But I guess I should maybe give my overall thoughts over the characters and the story so far, because I haven't really ranted about that. I feel like the setup is a little better than Fantasia, because we're sort of being thrown into the whole because the game starts out with being on top of a dragon, and the game holds no punches. It throws you right into the action, and I kind of appreciate that. Granted, not every Tales of game does it. In fact, Tales of Destiny is kind of one of the few games to actually just throw you into the fray. I have not played Tales of Eternia yet, but from what little I've seen of that game, or at least from the first couple of hours, doesn't start like that. Symphonia doesn't do that. Abyss doesn't really do that. Legendia doesn't. Vesperia kinda does, but not really. I guess the only noteworthy one that does sort of do that is Berseria. Yeah, it's probably Berseria. But enough about that. We're exploring the castle. We're just collecting some items. And like a dummy, I'm kind of lost right now because I'm looking for something called the War Room, because there's an orange gel in there. And once we're done here, we have to we have to actually go to the shops in Darrowshire and actually, purchase some stuff. Again, I apologize for getting a little lost. I did find... I was a little confused during my test run, too. And I overlooked a very obvious thing as to where the War Room is. Because, before you go to the other side of the castle, you'll notice there's a little gap in the one room. You'll see it. For some reason, I thought that was from the other side of a wall or something. I don't know. I was being really dumb. So we're just gonna restart. I think it's on the right side. It's not, because we're already over there. I know for a fact, if you go downstairs, that's where, the prison cells were. There's a guy down there you could talk to, and I think he asks for food. There's no reason to really do that. Yeah, it's right through there. I mistook that as another, there's a... I for some reason, thought there was a wall separating that. Now, what we're supposed to go into is not necessarily the War Room itself, but to the top left of it. There should be a little small room with an orange gel. Alright, there we go. Now we can actually get a damn move on. Jeez. As for the characters, I think Stan does a better job compared to Class Alvain from Tales of Fantasia. Mostly because... Class Alvain was pretty standard when it comes to main protagonist. He was sort of heroic, like, very, like, do-gooder. Again, he just seemed like a standard character, protagonist. Like, the standard, like hero that saves the day. Stan is sort of a goofball. He's an absolute zombie when he's in bed, which is kind of funny, I guess. This is early Tales of games, so like they're not fleshing about too much. He's also not going out. He's also not like, I'm gonna go out into the world and like help people. He's like, no, I'm gonna go out there and become famous and get rich and stuff. It's like he's kind of selfish, but he is a do-gooder, but not in the same way that Kless was. Stan is just sort of a goofball in this game. I kind of appreciate that. Rudy is definitely a much better Mint. She actually has personality compared to Mint, whereas Mint just had... the only thing Mint really had going for her was her connection to her mother through that game. And the trials she had to overcome in order to become a better... not only a better fighter, but a better character. So yeah, that was the thing. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing in these warehouses, you can actually get some items by maneuvering the boxes in a certain way. For some reason, like, when I was checking out my notes, like, I didn't actually specify what to do, because the guide I was jotting my notes down for, I don't know, it didn't do a good job of telling me how this works. Like, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to push these blocks in a certain way in order to make items appear, and, you know, you'd get some neat stuff out of it. For some reason, that first one got me jack all, but... elixirs. Full restoration. Heals your HP and TP fully. Use that sparingly. In fact, I probably don't see myself using it until, like, endgame, or, like, optional stuff. Like perhaps the EX dungeon in this game that we'll see down the road later down the road. We got a miracle gel, heals 60% of your HP and TP, almost as good as the elixir. Use it sparingly once again, because you're not going to be able to actually get your miracle gels for quite some time. Excuse me, I had a bit of a cough there. But yeah, these warehouses are a little weird, and this city isn't the only one with them. We're going to be doing these warehouse puzzles quite a few times, and I don't exactly understand why, you know, it's a thing. I just find it really strange, because just about maybe a few weeks ago, I finally finished one, not necessarily 100%ing, but doing almost everything in Tales of Vesperia, and there's a bunch of warehouse missions in that game too, where you have to push a whole bunch of boxes around. It's like a block pushing puzzle in a sense. I thought this was going to be the same thing, but it's apparently not. Also, if you want to do the warehouse thing on your own without my assistance or a guide, as you're moving the box around the warehouse, listen for a noticeable, like, clicking, like, shifting sound. Like you'll hear it in just a moment. I think. I don't remember which warehouse this is in. I think it's this one. Yeah, like that sound. You listen for that sound, you should be okay. Now this chest has a red savory. there are herbs throughout this game that'll actually permanently increase your stats. Savories, for example, increase your TP by a whole 5%. Red savories are the upgraded version and increase your TP by a whole 10%. Just gonna say this now. Unless you really feel tempted to actually use the savories, like right now, like you really think you're gonna need the TP buffs, save them until later. But for now, I'm actually gonna show off something that Stan just acquired. Stan's gonna show it off, right? Okay, never mind, I guess not. I just fought this battle for no reason. Why didn't I cut this out? Weird. But anyways, unless if you feel like you need the TP right now, hold on to those TP enhancements until much later in the game, because since it's percentage based, the higher your TP is, the higher the stat buff. So I'm not going to be using those until near the end of the game, because the buff will be much more noticeable when we do it then. And we got the Black Wigs. Do you remember when we agreed with Rudy to do some sort of mission to help out some kid learn some swordsmanship? Well, for some reason the Black Wigs decided to pick up that job, and I don't think he's doing a good job at teaching the kid. It's like rule number 1, stand out. Rule number 2, run away when things get too dangerous. Like, that's not what a hero does. Like, what the hell, dude? Meanwhile, what's-her-face is just chilling inside the bed because she wants nothing to do with this. Like, if it's like you talk to her, she's just like, "Is it over? Don't wake me up until it's over." Alright, but right now I'm actually gonna do a random cut because, according to the notes that I had to grind up all the way up to level 10. I'm not sure why I had to do that, but I did. It took forever, and I didn't want you guys to see that. So, yeah, we're finally moving on with plot. And I will be showing off Leon, like, how he works within the next set of battles. Not to mention the new enemies. Alright, so we got a new dungeon, sort of. This little forest. First, you're going to want to go over here, and we got our first set of new enemies. First, we got Chumbirds and Orcrots. Chumbirds are just like the snowbirds back in the snow forest on the way to Janos, and Orcrots are giant trees that would like headbutt you, as well as they got an attack called Chaos Apple, where they just send a whole bunch of apples just flying down on you. It doesn't do too much damage. While I was grinding, I picked up a few toys, so I'm showing those off as well. Eruption is a tier 2 fire spell, which basically causes a bunch of lava to appear from beneath the enemy, and it does a real good amount of damage, especially to enemies that are weak to fire. It is TP costly, 16 to be exact, so don't expect to abuse it too much. But now I can explain how Leon works. Leon kind of fights similarly to Stan. He actually has access to Missile Sword and Kick Attack, but he'll acquire his own abilities later on. Not to mention, his Swordian Shaltir is actually Earth-based. Right now he has access to Stone Blast and Grave, but in this game it's called Spikes. Stone Blast, you drop some rocks on some enemies. Spikes, Leon will actually summon 3 stone spikes from the ground to pierce the enemies, which does a decent amount of damage. Next, we have rock baboons, which really slap the crap out of you. They just give you the old backhand, and they can also swipe at you. They're pretty damaging. If you did not do the grinding that I did, these enemies might actually give you a bit of trouble. Not too much, but just be careful. If I had to recommend, I probably should have grinded using the forest as a means for experience, because it probably wouldn't have taken as long, but still. You might want to grind up at least a couple of levels. You don't have to grind up to level 10 like I did. But if you want to just be able to breeze through this forest, I guess, if you have the patience, you could do that. But Leon also has access to, and this was really strange to me, he has access to Hammer Drop. Which if you remember back in Tales of Fantasia, I don't blame you if you don't, Mint had access to an attack called Pow Hammer. And Pow Hammer is a major staple in the Tales of series, but for some odd reason it's primarily used by female characters, and Leon, with his gritty, edgy as hell personality, you wouldn't think he would have that kind of attack. However, Hammer Drop's pretty decent. It actually deals alright damage, and it stuns the enemy for a little bit, so that's actually pretty cool. I haven't explained Rudy's abilities yet. Well, I did, but when it comes to Alt White, her Swordian, she has access to ice magic. The first one you get is going to be called Ice Needle, where she sends a bunch of scattered needles of ice and pierces the enemy with them. The other one, which she actually just acquired, is called Ice Tornado, where she surrounds all the enemies in a tornado of ice, and it's really powerful. We got these shroom enemies. They could do the spore attack. I think you could inflict status ailments like poison, but it didn't happen to me, so maybe it can't do it. I didn't. It died too quickly for me to figure that out. If it inflicts any status ailments on you, let me know down in that comment section so I know. There's a Bellabane right here. Increases your agility, which I think I'm going to be using right away. Maybe not? Oh well. I do use it right away. Yeah, unlike that Savory, Bellabane is not percentage based. It just increases your agility by 2. You could later change it into a red Bellabane, which I'll explain how that works later, but I wasn't worried about it right now. And Leon leveled up, so that's pretty cool. Also, I'm not sure why I didn't show this off. Maybe I did during one of the battles. I wasn't fully paying attention to what I was doing on the screen, like right now, watching the playback. But Stan also has this new attack called the Spin Attack, or Spin Slash, whatever, Spin Slice, where he basically jumps and there's Ice Tornado. It's pretty good stuff. Stan basically jumps towards the enemies while in a spinning rotation with his sword, which does some pretty good damage. Requires 6 TP. It's actually his most powerful tech. I love using the heck out of it. I prefer Kick Attack because Spin it, for what it's worth, I don't think the Spin Slash is all that accurate. Because since it requires you to jump over the enemy, it's possible you can literally jump over the enemy you're trying to hit and just completely miss. I think I did that a couple times. Alright, but now that we're right around Streamless Temple, let's find out what's going on here, because, this place looks deserted, and I think those people on the floor are dead. Oh, you're alright. Please spare these girls. Whoa, hey, wait a minute. We've been sent here by the king. What? You gave me a good scare. We've been dispatched by the king of Seinegald. What happened here? What happened? Maybe you can tell me. I was visiting one of our sister temples in another country. When I returned, it was like this. Since I had to protect these girls, I couldn't leave here at all. In fact, I don't know how the others are doing. You really don't know what's going on, do you? Well, that'll do for now. We're going to search for the Archbishop. If you value your life, remain here for a while and don't attract attention to yourselves. I believe evil beings are still in the temple. Please take this with you. And we got a talisman. Please save the Archbishop. The talisman increases your defense stats by 5%. So that's pretty good. I think the stat buff only goes into effect when you're in battle. And if not, there's no noticeable change in the stat buff because, you know, my defense isn't all that high, so the boost in itself isn't high either. It's just like the herbs I mentioned earlier. And now we're in Streamless Temple. Is anyone there? Oh, Etamoni, am I condemned to die here, trapped without hope? Yeah, who knows, mystery person? I'm gonna just leave the voice anonymous until we actually know who it is inside there. And with that said, we're actually gonna call it a part. Thankfully, this part wasn't nearly as long as the past couple of parts, because those were going on like 30 minutes. This is just above 20, so it's not too bad. But anyways, next time on Tales of Destiny, we're going to explore the Streamless Temple and hopefully find the Archbishop. So until then, I got a juice.